it may be more narrow or redefined. So those are areas of pocket religions.
Okay. It seems like science played a pretty important role in your life. As I understand it, you worked as a sort of scientist to make some pretty groundbreaking discoveries, or important ones. I think my mom was telling me about you worked on something for the government about mad cow disease, or something was killing cows.
I'll tell you a little bit about that.
Okay.
It was about 1975, 74, somewhere in there. It so happened that a chemical company was derelict in the way they distributed and stored their chemical supplies. And they used to supply minerals and some other specialties to the animal industry, mostly dairy cows around McBain. That's a large dairy producing area. So in order to achieve high productivity from the milk cows, they were fed minerals and extra protein and high quality diets. And the university, Michigan State, had a whole section of animal nutrition scientists that also helped promote scientific diets and helped to train the farmers how they could improve their milk production without much further cost. So it was economically advantageous to them. Well, it seems like one of these chemical suppliers stored polybrominated biphenyls, which is an it's a fire retardant used in a lot of places where it even shouldn't be. But they stored that right next to some of the chemicals like magnesium oxide, which is also quite light. When it's really dry, it's in a form of being fluffy, just like the polybrominated biphenyls were called PBBs. Well, somebody that worked for them mixed up and distributed or loaded the PBBs along with other minerals in a truck that went out to one of the big farm distributor companies called Farm Bureau Distribution. So the animals were given a high dose. When it got mixed in the feed, they would take all of these, they thought they were nutrients, and mix them together in certain quantities. And so the PBBs got mixed right as a mistake into the animal diets of minerals. So there was a large segment of the dairy animals in central Michigan were contaminated with PBBs, the fire retardant. Well, people were so scared that, oh my God, it's a chemical that's going to kill us. And when it was mixed, the first additions of it were so strong, it did kill a few of the animals. And so it aroused this terrible fear with the political cries, and righteously so, that the food was contaminated. So milk, as soon as a cow got sick from anything, everybody thought, oh, that's PBB. And if you ever drank any milk, the farm families usually drank milk from their own dairy herd. So if your cows were contaminated, then you were contaminated. And even worse, your children were, who drank more of a percentage of their diet of milk. So the widespread belief was that, my God, all these people are going to be killed. It was going to cause all kinds of cancer. And as the case where there's no knowledge, it's usually fear is much worse than the true situation. When then the lawsuits started pouring in, and eventually it got to be such a huge political problem that the government put out gag orders for their Department of Agriculture, and were fining companies that even talked about it. So of course, if there's gag orders, nobody knows anything. Then the rumors get worse, and the science has no chance, if there is any, to disperse amongst the population. So the state got involved, and they set up a fund. All the dairy animals that were contaminated, to any minute extent even, the animals were all taken out and shot and dumped in this big pit. Oh, it was a monstrous pit around Kalkaska, Michigan. And the pit had been lined, specially made, lined with like 6 feet of clay, certain kinds of clay, where chemicals do not normally penetrate. Well, it so happens they didn't test whether this chemical, whether it would penetrate the clay liner and also leave, because in the ground it rains, and of course rain, the water washes things, and chemicals tend to follow, which has been found to be the case. But anyway, there had been a study conducted at Ohio State where the animals had been fed controlled small amounts of this PBB in order to study its effects, even in small amounts, on dairy animals. And it was proven to be innocuous, except at very large doses. But the public wouldn't believe that. And in the meantime, a friend of mine, I had gotten to know this professor of animal nutrition at Michigan State. Well, he had been doing some research, and he had farmers, friends, where he had grown up in the thumb of Michigan, where the animals had not been exposed, but they were still suffering the same effects. And then we had beautiful models. There were Amish farmers who don't feed their animals any kind of supplements. So he went around the state and collected a whole bunch of samples. Then he said to me, and a friend of mine, you you suppose you could do me a favor? And, well, if we can. Well, he wanted all these samples to be analyzed. And for what, he wasn't sure. So that posed not only a problem, but it was a wonderful problem to work on. So I had, this friend and I had published a research article using electrochemistry for studying quantities of iodine in human food and animal feed. But we were concerned mainly with iodine in milk because the state agriculture department had recommended the inclusion of iodine in the diet of dairy cattle because children, well, in Michigan there's huge areas, and I assume this is geographically widespread, where the natural dietary quantities of iodine are missing. So all the women especially develop goiters, which is not very healthy. Goiters are in your throat, and they develop big tumors on their thyroids.
Mm-hmm.
So the thyroids didn't work, and it detracted from their lifespan.